Hello everyone and welcome to today's spoiler warning with myself, Tom Colohue. Our top news today is as regards the new deals on offer for Sasha Banks and Naomi ahead of tonight's WWE Smackdown. Now there is a lot of rumours going around on this one, so we're going to break down exactly what is on offer, who the offer has come from, who the offer has been approved by, and where we are as regards signing on the dotted line. There's also a little bit more news that's out there now, a little bit on Karrion Kross, for example, and other names that may have been mentioned backstage, plus a little bit as regards the future of Logan Paul, Pat McAfee, and other celebrity-style wrestlers in the company. We have a little bit more on what Triple H is doing backstage, so please do remember to hit like. That little thumbs up can make a massive difference. Subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get into it. So, Triple H has communicated directly with Sasha Banks and Naomi, offering them a brand new deal. Now, it is not the same deal, it's a different deal for the two of them, so between the two of them it's a quite different situation, but the deal on offer has been approved by Nick Khan, and it is believed to be a considerable upgrade in what they were previously receiving. This would require a new contract to be signed by both of the women, that being Sasha Banks and Naomi, but the contracts will tie them into the company for at least around about 3 years. Nick Khan has been pushing for a several-year commitment to justify the overall outlay that would be a part of this. So Nick Khan wants a long-term commitment from Sasha Banks and Naomi. Triple H has been in direct discussion, and he has been pitching not just money, but also pushes. Now, this does not immediately mean that Sasha Banks and Naomi will return to become the SmackDown Women's Championship. It does mean a guaranteed push for the Women's Tag Team Championships. The Tag Team Championships and the future of them has been on the table in discussions. There are also a number of other women in the company who are pushing for the Tag Team Championships to be pushed stronger. This includes Bayley, as has been quite vocal about on Twitter, but also names like Alexa Bliss and Natalya have been pushing for the Women's Tag Team Championships to be more involved. Carmella as well is believed to be someone who wants these championships to feature. So there are a number of people backstage in the WWE trying to get these championships pushed. This has led to Triple H making promises of certain pushes that will include tag team championships, that will not necessarily mean that Sasha Banks and Naomi become the tag team champions. That is the deal that is on the table. A significant upgrade when it comes to money, also a significant upgrade in terms of push, the tag team championships to be used more going forwards and to be featured more heavily, as well as individual pushes for Sasha Banks and Naomi. But it would mean them being tied down to the company for at least 3 years. Naomi needs a new contract at this point. Sasha Banks has been trying to get out of her contract, but to this point is not believed to have succeeded in doing that. As regards tonight's SmackDown, I cannot sit here and say they'll be there. However, there are strong rumours backstage that the deal has been signed. A number of people that I've spoken to in the company believe that it's basically a formality at this point. They are confident that the deal will be signed, and we will see both women back in action shortly. Now, how shortly is a great question. I do not believe we will see them at SmackDown tonight, because SmackDown tonight is more about the SmackDown Women's Championship, and Sasha Banks and Naomi look likely to return in the tag division. At least for now, the tag division. I still think it is very possible that Naomi ends up turning on Sasha Banks and joining the Bloodline. We have more on this. There is a report that's just come out from Fightful about Karrion Kross being someone who has been discussed backstage for a return. He has indeed been discussed, as have a number of other people. These names include, for example, Keith Lee, though he is locked in elsewhere, Jon Moxley, MJF, Braun Strowman briefly, very briefly, not still, very briefly, and, of course, the Iconics. Now, the Iconics would not be able to return at this point, or at least in that specific guise, but there has been mention of bringing them back as some sort of presenter duo, as it were. I find it more likely that the conversation happened before the announcement of the pregnancy, which means they are not going to be coming back at this point in time. Oh, and one of the writers brought up Ric Flair. A number of people have made their voices known. A number of people have been told by Triple H, stop making your voice heard. Just stop it. Please just stop. Stop trying. There's a little bit more coming on what's going on backstage. Please do remember to hit thumbs up. Every like makes a massive difference. We currently have 59 viewers, but only the 11 likes. So please remember to hit that like button. It really is the fastest way to make our channel grow. And it really does help me when it comes to finding new subscribers and the like. So please do consider that. Let's answer some questions actually. Simon's already here asking about Sasha. Connecting People says, aloha from sunny San Diego. Aloha to yourself as well. Steve says, Colohue, hope you're doing well, buddy. What are the chances that Sasha and Naomi will be back in time for WWE Clash at the Castle? There is a chance that that is going to happen. It is not believed to be an instantaneous thing, though as I've mentioned, a lot of people backstage, at least a couple, believe that it's all but a formality, and with the deal on the table, they are going to sign it. They are, of course, independent people, so one may and one may not. The offers are made to the individuals. So, Clash at the Castle, I'd say there's a good chance. Austin says, gauntlet match, winner faces Liv, please be Shayna. This would be a perfect time for Charlotte Flair to return, though I would love it if it was indeed Shayna. Simon, I've already answered that. Tommy says a room back carrying cross, that would be the Fightful report. I've already answered that. But welcome Tommy and welcome Simon. Sean says, hello, love the shirt. Welcome mate, thank you kindly. Spider-Boss says, hello Tom, happy that Sasha tweeted again after months. She did, it was mostly to promote an appearance that she is going to be making, but apparently has been removed from advertisement. Michael says, hi Tom, how you doing mate? Kings Andy says, I hope whatever contract Sasha and Naomi got has lots of zeros. Get paid ladies, get paid. The offer on the table is for a substantial amount of money. Jaden says, hey Tom, hey Jaden, how you doing mate? Keith O'Toole says, is Battle of the Belts tomorrow? I don't know what you're referring to there. I'd imagine it's pay-per-view that I'm just not aware of. Noob says, hello Tom, how you doing? Doing very well, thank you Noob, great to see you mate. Spider-Boss says, gauntlet match to find a new rival for Liv. Your thoughts? My thoughts are that this would be a perfect time for the return of Charlotte Flair. Liv of course does need to a heel to work against. I'd like Shayna Baszler. I'd also quite like Sonya Deville. I think Liv Morgan and Sonya Deville could have a great match. Mr. Floodwater says, is the upgrade just money? It is not. As I've mentioned, a push comes with it and a promise of more time and effort put into the Women's Tag Team Championships. Edward Brooks says, do you think Bayley's group could cause chaos on SmackDown as well as Raw, at least until the draft when they try and do a solid split again? It's almost like you've been listening to the recording of Nick and Tom's that we recorded a little earlier today. I think that's a definite possibility. I don't think Bayley, Io Sky and Dakota Kai are guaranteed to be on Raw. I do feel with the draft as close as it is, with the possibility that it will take place before the UK pay-per-view, I don't personally believe it will, but there is a possibility of that. I think using someone as a free agent in that time is a great way to really show their dominance. Wiggly says, yo, how do? I'm in Wales meeting John Cena tomorrow. I hope it goes great, mate. I really do. Jaden says, Sasha tweeted today, is Sasha going to be at SmackDown? Possibly. Doesn't mean she's going to appear on screen. As I say, a lot of people do believe, once again, I've been told by people backstage that there is a expectation that they will sign the new deals or have signed the new deals, but I cannot at this point say that it has happened. As of Monday, I did report the deals were in place, that Nick Khan had approved those deals that Triple H had put forwards, and I've now been able to confirm more information going forwards. Sean says, Liv is getting a new opponent for Clash of the Castle. That is correct. Bayley says, properly pushed, Naomi could be a serious contender for the SmackDown title, with or without the Bloodline. I agree, though I feel with the Bloodline, that works a bit more effectively for me. Knight Rider says, maybe Naomi turning on Sasha and joining the Bloodline could be interesting. I agree. Raina Prey says, what happened? Sasha Banks and Naomi have been offered new contracts with a lot of promises that come with it. Mr. Floodwater says, I don't like the idea of walking out gets you rewarded, and WWE are going to start a precedent of giving in to demands of superstars who are big enough. That may be the case. Sometimes, though, there are exceptions. I know the idea is that no player is bigger than the club, but sometimes players are bigger than the club. Michael says, SRS did mention in a podcast yesterday that Raj's report is correct. Yes, Sean Rossap did confirm the report that Sasha Banks has been released. I'm still waiting to confirm that myself because I can't in good conscience report something without the facts myself. Razar says, if you had to guess, do you think Sasha and Naomi will be back in time for the UK pay-per-view? I've discussed that a little earlier, but as I say, I don't like to guess, as it were. Yes, neither one of them is pregnant. I said that immediately afterwards. Hector says, for context purpose, Brock's entrance at SummerSlam took 3 minutes 36 seconds, while Roman's took 5 minutes 35 seconds, a combined 9 minutes 11 seconds. In comparison, Bobby and Liv's matches combined were 9 minutes 17 seconds. Yeah, but there was a reason for that. The match between Liv Morgan and Ronda Rousey was intentionally short to create the impression that Liv Morgan was massively out of her depth. The match between Bobby Lashley and Austin Theory was intentionally short to create the impression that Austin Theory was massively out of his depth. Liv escaped. Austin Theory didn't. Jaden says Sasha is no longer booked for the celebrity football this weekend, so I keep hearing. Wiggly says, might Kairi Sane return? Also, do you think Punk might want to come back? The reason Kairi Sane has not returned at this point, and the reason Kairi Sane was removed from that side of the company, was injury related. As it's injury related, it does mean that the WWE doctors do not want to clear her. It's not down to Triple H at this point. Keith O'Toole says, I've not seen AJ Styles wrestling for a while. Where is he? He wrestled on Monday Night Raw. Twice. Simon says, Vince McMahon removed from the internal roster. Karma is a bitch. What goes around comes around. Is it? Isn't that just a formality? I'm pretty sure it's just a formality. Sean says, what about Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson? I find that unlikely that they'll be asked to return. Firstly, it's not the type of performer that Nick Khan or Triple H are particularly interested in investing in at this point. And also, with Paul Heyman still there would be issues. Knight Rider says a Karrion Kross versus Bobby Lashley feud could be fun. Yes, it could. That's a good point. Yes, Joey Sean Rossap did talk about that. I also shared some more news on that slightly earlier. Wiggly says, interesting what if question, but what if He's Not My Brother wasn't around? Who would have been the top star in that era? Ted DiBiase and Randy Savage. Simon says there's a slight chance they appear on SmackDown tonight. Yes, there is a slight chance that they appear on SmackDown tonight. Tommy says, I feel really excited about WWE again under Triple H. I get that. A lot of people are definitely in that field at the moment. I'm excited for it. Get the tables. Welcome. How you doing? Says, Ozu may get Gunter versus Sheamus at the Castle. Very unlikely. Gunter is still being established as a heel. And tonight on SmackDown, we will see Shinsuke Nakamura taking on Ludwig Kaiser one more time to confirm the match between Nakamura and Gunter. It was originally planned for SummerSlam, but once Triple H took over, he wanted a slightly clearer route for SummerSlam, less matches on the card. So it looks like Clash at the Castle will feature Gunter versus Nakamura. Hey Cameron, how you doing, mate? Steve says, would like to see Karrion Kross back with Scarlett. Imagine the NXT entrance on a weekly basis instead of the generic one with a questionable mask we got on Raw. I'd like them to save that for the premium live events, make it a bit more special, but at the same time, I'd also kind of love it every week. Joey says, do you think Johnny Gargano could return next week since they're in Cleveland? Them being in Cleveland actually makes Johnny Gargano less likely to return because, after all, it's a lot easier to hide him if he gets on a plane. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate that. Michael says, Vince out, Johnny Ace out, raises and pushes. How perfect. Pretty much, yeah, pretty much. Floodwater says, Liv's shitty SummerSlam booking has soured me on her. I don't think she deserves that, to be completely honest. Yes, she was always going to be booked below Ronda Rousey, but she managed to keep the championship and now she gets a new challenger. Thank you, Jaden. We currently have 73 viewers and only the 23 likes. That is 50 people here who have not clicked like yet at least. Please do remember to hit that thumbs up. It makes a massive difference to the show and to the channel. We are currently still trying to break some subscriber targets. We are currently on 1,374. With the way we've been going recently, I don't think it's impossible. We hit 1,400 today. So if you have not yet done so, please remember to subscribe, hit like, and let's keep going. Noob says, this weekend's my birthday. Also, what feuds will be great and others be a flop? Becky versus Bayley, Bianca versus Bayley will be great, but I think the Asuka versus Io Sky will be ruined by fan overhype. Fan overhype is not the fault of the wrestlers, so we are where we are. Kings Andy says, I personally return at the Royal Rumble's last two entrants would be the way to go. Let that be their very first appearance back. That is 5 months away. I don't think fans can be that patient. Eric says, what if they go back to SmackDown, which takes the belt from Liv? Neither. I am still confident that the belt will be taken from Liv by either a Ronda Rousey again or by someone like Rhea Ripley or Bayley when they come over in the draft. Sean says, if Liv faces Shayna, does she beat Shayna? That is a hypothetical built on a hypothetical. You're asking me to guess based on something that may or may not happen. So, nah. Thank you, Jermaine, saying this is why you're the best reporter in the wrestling community. Thank you, I appreciate that. Gotcha, Simon. Spider-Boss says, Vince retired and Sasha with new contract. I like it. Jaden says, Tom, since Bayley's a free agent, could she be on SmackDown tonight? Have we confirmed that she's a free agent? I expect she will be floating across both, but I don't believe there's been official confirmation on that. Joey says, I'd love to see Tegan Nox return at Clash of the Castle since they're in Cardiff. Tegan Nox, her departure was down to injuries, and a large amount of them, rather than being fired because they had nothing for her, so that seems unlikely. Hector says, sad news, Glenn Jacobs was re-elected as mayor of Knox County. That means I have to see him say more outlandish things for the next couple of years at least. Yep, that sucks. I completely agree. That sucks. Traffic, how you doing, mate? There's good afternoon/evening. Thanks for the info again. No worries. I try my best to keep people as informed as possible. Austin says, I hope Cross does come back. Me too. I don't think he got the rub of the green. I don't think he got the big chances, and I think he could do a lot more if just given a bit more opportunities. Steve says, would love to see a tribute to the British Bulldog at Clash at the Castle, perhaps a battle royal in his honour. Would be fun as Bulldog main evented the last UK Stadium show and more talents get on the card. That would be fun, and I think that's a very good idea. I don't think they'll do it, but I do think that's a good idea. Good evening, Sean. How the devil are you? Keith says, does the former Braun Strowman Adam Scherr still wrestle? Yes, he is currently under contract with Control Your Narrative. So, kind of no. David, Sean Ross Sapp did not report that Killer Cross is coming back to the WWE sooner rather than later. He did not report that. His report was that there has been a discussion backstage that maybe we can bring Karrion Kross back. That was his report. It is very different to what you've read there. Tommy would like to see Karrion Kross versus Brock. There's a lot of very good possibilities in a Karrion Kross return. Karrion Kross versus Gunter, I think, would be a lot of fun as well. I think there's a lot of creative options there. Karrion Kross versus Drew, Karrion Kross versus Sheamus. There's some good options. King Xander says, FDR returning, joining their very close friend Sasha to go up against Usos and Naomi. That's a money feud. I mean, it would be, but it would involve a massive breach of contract. David Leary says, what's your view on the Billy Batty SRS feud? Childish? Bit pointless? Silly? We're grown-ass men? Is any of that necessary? Is any of that necessary? Now, don't get me wrong, I get crap from both of those men. And am I going to walk up to them and try and pick a fight in front of as many people as possible at a convention? When there's all those pictures, all taken by friends of one side, and the video and all this. There's no winner in this, but a whole lot of people who've already convinced themselves that their guy is the best have decided that their guy won. It's all very sad. Sean says, been saying Bayley's faction getting compared to Absolution. I compared them to that on the Monday night, spoiler warning, so yes, I can definitely see that. Wiggly says still lots of Clash tickets left. Yeah, because the prices are extortionate, mate. Extortionate. It is bad. Keith O'Toole says, yeah, I've heard of that promotion. Yeah, Control Your Narrative. It's a thing. It is a thing. It is definitely a promotion. Yeah. Spider Boss says, Karma got Vince. He tried to make Sasha and Naomi's unprofessionals, and Vince ended up out of the company. I don't think it's karma. I think the karma is a long time coming. Jaden says, I think the coach is my fave from NXT 2.0, EO second. My sort of image of Dakota Kai in my head predates 2.0 considerably. Keith says, anyone seen Ezekiel? Just curious. There's a number of people who haven't featured much in the Triple H era. For example, Madcap Moss has sort of vanished recently, but it's only been a couple of weeks, and there's still plenty of chances we're going to see him. I think we can all remember that Max Dupree was definitely going missing And then suddenly he wasn't. JJ, you're right, mate. Says, hey Tom, if Becky is still out by the draft, do you see her being a free agent? No, I'm confident she'll be back around the draft. So she'll be drafted. It just she won't necessarily automatically feature that week. David says, Tom, maybe Killer Cross wins the Royal Rumble match in San Antonio and wins the undisputed. Yeah, I'm just going to pause you there. So we don't know if this guy is coming back to the company. A discussion has taken place about maybe happening is what's been reported. You've already started talking about maybe he wins everything it is possible to win. Chill out. Sean says, who does Ronda face at Clash? At the moment, I wouldn't expect her to face anyone. My suspicion is that the attack on the referee and the subsequent suspension was mostly on the basis of her having a limited day contract. She's not supposed to be there every week, so I think she's just having some time off. We'll miss the Clash at the Castle, and I'd have her back in time for Survivor Series. Nelson says, is there a way WWE can get MJF early? Well, no, because that would be contract tampering. MJF would need to wait for his contract with AEW to expire before then even beginning negotiations with the WWE. There's more to this than just, I want that one, I want that one, I want that one. And again, I do feel we'll all need to calm down just a little bit. Jonathan Rodriguez, welcome. Says Cross would be the perfect person to lead out Judgment Day and take out Edge again. I like them. I like Judgment Day as it is. I like that there isn't necessarily a leader anymore. I think they'd reject that as a concept. I really do. Joey asked for news on MJF. As I say, and as I've said before, negotiations are ongoing. The idea that he hasn't spoken to anyone while still under contract seems confusing to me. Seems very confusing. At the very least, there'd be talks about him breaching his contract by not turning up to work. Knight Rider says, how do you think the finish of the Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre match at Clash of the Castle should play out? Seems like a tough finish to book. I think Roman wins clean. Roman's been consistently winning clean. There's been no real debate about whether or not it's a good thing or a bad thing. He's consistently winning clean, and I do think another victory over Drew, whose number he very much has, is the right way to play it. While I've got everyone, we currently have 73 viewers and only 31 likes. Please do remember to hit that thumbs up. It does make a massive difference in the growth of the channel and the growth of the viewership. Lately, on Monday, we hit a new record high viewership of 232 people, which is absolutely incredible. A number I maybe never expected to reach. It is a hell of a number. Now, we are still growing here. We're at 71 now, which is a higher number than our previous average. But please do remember to hit that thumbs up. It does make a massive difference. Simon says, what's your thoughts on the Undisputed Era turning on the Young Bucks and then Hangman rejoining with the Bucks for the Trios title? I think they needed to make some changes in AEW. I think they're sort of falling behind. It's been a long time since I've heard anyone ask the question, are AEW competition to WWE? Because right now, they're just not. They needed something. Kervin says, WWE dropped the 24/7 title segment. Yep. We're seeing less of the 24/7 title. It is still there. My expectation is that it will go largely into an online purpose and be a bit more hardcore. I'd be okay with that. Spider-Boss says, imagine how good could be SmackDown with the role models back on it. Not an impossibility. Not an impossibility. As I say, I'm not entirely sure at this point what's going to happen with Bayley, but I would love it if she was indeed a free agent. Welcome, Connor. Thank you kindly for your 12th month, and that is the 12th month in a row of subscribing on Twitch. Thank you kindly for your continued support and generosity. Welcome to the show. How you doing, mate? Danny B-Side says, Wiki says Bayley, she's on a Raw brand, so not a free agent. Does WWE say that? Because Wikipedia not the most reliable. Spider-Boss says, with the draft, the role models could end up in the same brand. Yeah, with the draft, anyone could end up on the same brand as anyone else. Jaden says, Tommy, you're going to the UK pay-per-view? I'm not. I'm going to be hosting the watch party instead. Corbin says, new era, raw opportunity. The land of opportunities has very much returned. Wiggly says, I'm currently distracted with a fluffy ragdoll cat in the house. I'm staying in. Keep pestering me for cuddles. Well, how dare it? How dare it? I get the tables. What I said about Sheamus and Gunter is that for Clash of the Castle, Gunter is lined up for a match with Shinsuke Nakamura that was originally supposed to take place at SummerSlam. Sheamus could be in his future, but at the moment they're trying to establish Gunter as a heel, and a firm heel at that, so they need him to be facing more popular names. I think, for example, Drew McIntyre may get his name mentioned shortly. Keith says, I was thinking about what happened to the Ezekiel character Elias debuted. Elias debuted a while back. Ezekiel's a recent debut. Obviously, there's some training that's happened from Elias that I think you can see the similarities. But Ezekiel's fairly recent. I mean, I think it was just after WrestleMania Ezekiel made his debut. And at the moment, we're seeing him a little bit less. We're going to be seeing less people on our weekly television show, but we're going to see a bit more rotation. For example, Bobby Lashley only had a very small amount to do this week on Raw. In future, he may have more to do, and someone else, like AJ, will have less to do. Joey says, I'd love to see Santos Escobar on the main roster. I definitely think that's something that'll happen within the next year or so. Knight Rider says, who should feud with the undisputed WWE Tag Team Champions, the Usos, next? Seems like a lack of solid face teams left. New Day seems to be the only logical choice at this point. RK Bro I would hope return soon, but it seems unlikely right now, so we may need a new tag team. Eric Douglas says, do you see Gigi and JC getting called up tonight? I don't. I did for a while, but it really depends on what happens with Sasha and Naomi at this point, because the main roster is getting quite stacked when it comes to women's division. Jermaine says, how this Sasha turn on Naomi turn on Sasha, then Naomi joins a bloodline heel, Naomi take the title from Liv or whoever is champion, now Sasha win the Royal Rumble and challenge Naomi at WrestleMania. Could happen. I don't think the title will be involved until after the feud. Sean says, Chris Jericho believes Dynamite will beat Raw in the next 4 to 6 months. He has not been paying attention. Brian Dalton says, any idea on when Orton might be back? Around about very late this year, early next year. One of many people who most likely seems to be returning around Royal Rumble time, along with people such as, for example, Cody Rhodes. Spider-Bell says, Raw 2.2 in the ratings versus Dynamite 938,000. Raw won. Yeah, Raw did win, but that was a unique position on both ends. I do not believe for a second that Dynamite's going to be beating Raw. I don't. Traffic says, CYN, this is Control Your Narrative, is such a good example of how important a good promoter is. All these big names but can't draw a bar crowd. Yeah, I barely hear anything of them. I keep waiting to hear like anything important, but it's just not happening. Connor, I will get to that shortly. Please hang on, I will recap as soon as I get to you. Joey says, do you think MJF will try to get out of his contract? He hasn't done so far. Simon says, Tom, isn't Killer Cross Scarlett Bordeaux under contract to MLW for the long term, currently who the WWE in a lawsuit with right now? Maybe, I don't know. I don't personally know the contract situation. I know MLW uses a lot of people without actually signing them to contracts. Kevin says, 5 WWE wrestlers who will lose their push forever. I'm not going to name names. That just seems cynical. Insomnia, welcome, says, why was Io Sky kept in NXT for so long? From what I could tell, there was just a lack of interest in the main roster. Io was one of those who simply didn't trust the main roster creative and didn't want her character to be basically ground into the dust. Now, of course, things are slightly different. She was considering leaving, but the push on offer was simply too good to turn down, and I think as much as anything, this is a sign of her faith in Bayley. Eric says, Tom, how about they make a trade? AEW gets Finn Balor, WWE gets MJF. That will never happen. Spider-Boss says, any plans for Bianca's title reign? Yes. At the moment, Bayley. Bayley is the plan for Bianca's title reign, though expect Alexa and Asuka to be the spoilers for a little while. Hector says, with Warner Media Discovery cutting costs left and right, and Dynamite and Rampage not having the greatest numbers as of late, I could honestly see Warner Media shining away from AEW, and they axed a movie that had a $90 million budget, so I wouldn't be surprised if they passed on AEW. I do believe they will get a deal from Warner Media. I don't think they'll get the same amount of money. If you're not already aware of AEW's financial situation, I have done on YouTube a financial analysis of AEW with my colleague Brillman, a journalist who currently lives in the Czech Republic, and covers LOL, so League of Legends shoutcasting, which is just a great phrase to say. We did break down the fact that AEW at this point in time are not making money and haven't done at any point. That's quite telling about where they're going next. Keith O'Toole says, do you think the Pinnacle would have stayed longer in AEW had MJF never left the company? MJF has not left the company. MJF is still under contract with AEW. Wiggly says, do you think signed Asuka merchandise would be worth a lot in years to come? Probably would be worth about as much as your average upper mid-card women's talent. Dan the Gemini, welcome mate, how you doing? Says, hey Tom, when is the draft happening this year? The draft is happening in the next couple of months, September, October time. I expect it to be just after they return from the UK, maybe a little bit after that when it comes to a Saudi Arabia show, but it will be all set in place before Survivor Series. So between September and November, we will have ourselves a full draft. Razar says, I could see Ronda versus Liv versus Charlotte for Clash. Charlotte wins the gauntlet and Ronda demands a rematch because of Liv's tapping at SummerSlam. All of those, I feel, are good options and I would like them. Hey Tom, how you doing mate? Tom, can I ask, when is our interview going live on your YouTube channel? Edward Brooks says, did you get to hear Bayley on Corey's After the Bell podcast today? She seems determined to lead the locker room, going for and getting everyone on the same page for the betterment of the division as a whole. There are leaders in that locker room, though not all of those leaders in question are as popular as they have been in the past. For example, Charlotte Flair is a locker room leader, but the SmackDown locker room in the women's side in particular is lacking in strong voices right now. The Raw locker room, that is not the case. Becky Lynch is the leader of the Raw locker room. Alexa Bliss, shortly afterwards, takes up that second spot. But Becky Lynch is in charge. Weird and cute, Wiggly, weird and cute. Sean says, thoughts on Caden and Casey winning the tag team titles in NXT? That's basically what I expected. There aren't many other people to do it. I've been pretty good so far this week, Connor. Thanks for asking, I appreciate that. Ed says, thoughts on the Brandon Thurston discussion of the AEW and WWE TV deals coming up in the next few years and the numbers that each will see when they sign on the dotted line. Brandon Thurston is probably the authority when it comes to the financials of wrestling companies, so I don't question any of that. It was very telling about the future of AEW. Not so much on the future of WWE. I think we all knew where we were going with that one, but the future of AEW is a very different situation. Thanks for bringing that in, Ed, and how are you? Night Rider says, I wouldn't mind seeing the KO show with special guest Tyson Fury at a Clash at the Castle. Could end with a KO. Could very much end with a KO, or a KO, or a KO on KO. Lots of options. Lots of options. Spider-Boss says, is it me, or is Jericho way too much of a Tony Khan loyalist? No, Jericho is not a Tony Khan loyalist. Jericho is a floater in every sense of the word, who knows a good thing when he sees it. Keith O'Toole says, Christine Cage deserves to pay for what he said about Jungle Boy's family. He's got to get his. Well, then he's a good heel and he's made you passionate. Thank you very much for following on Twitch, Code Villain. Thank you very kindly. You'll get a notification every time we go live with our Monday and Friday spoiler warning news shows. And of course, our SmackDown watch parties as well. If you are currently watching on Twitch, please do remember that you can hit follow and you'll get that notification every time we go live. And if you're watching on YouTube, we currently have 95 people watching and 39 likes. Please do remember, hit that thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. We have a lot of news here that you cannot find anywhere else, including quite a lot of news that we shared earlier and that we'll be recapping shortly about Sasha Banks and Naomi. Steve says, controversial, but I think Drew is the one to beat Roman. I think Drew has Tyson Fury in his corner. Fury will knock out the Usos to keep the match one-on-one. Interesting. Simon, Becky and Charlotte are professionals who will go to whatever brand they are told to. Right. No worries, get to tables. Not a worry at all. Connor says, hey Tom, just came in. If there's been any news on Sasha and Naomi, would you mind briefly recapping? There has been news. Title of the show, mate. Title of the show. So there has definitely been further news on Sasha Banks and Naomi. So let me just recap the Sasha Banks and Naomi news. And if you haven't subscribed and you hear this news and want to hear more, be sure to hit that subscribe button. So the deal on offer to Sasha Banks and Naomi has been put together as a package by Triple H and confirmed by Nick Khan. It is a new contract for each woman, which would lock them into the company for around about 3 years each. That's what they were looking for. That's what Nick Khan wanted. It contains a considerable raise, a nice amount of money, and let's just say that again and just leave it there. A nice amount of money for both women, though one of them is slightly larger than the other. But above that, it includes a guarantee of certain pushes. So that means singles pushes for both Sasha Banks and Naomi, but it also means, as per their request, that the Women's Tag Team Championships will be featured more heavily by the WWE going forwards. That was part of their terms. Simon says, "Do you think we get Sasha versus Trish dream match now under a Triple H Nick Khan Steph regime? The reason we have not had that match is Trish Stratus, not anything to do with anyone else." Simon says, "How long do you think Liv's title reign runs/lasts? I don't think she makes it to Survivor Series, unfortunately." Jaden says, "I hope Triple H just gives Sasha what she wants here, like Trish match. Once again, Trish is the reason that match never happened. We can't blame Vince for things out of his control." Kelvin says, "Raw ratings 2 million views, but I don't see next week getting the same views." I can see next week getting 2 million again. Beyond and above that, not so much. Spider-Boss says, "I hope Bianca can have a match at Clash at the Castle." She will, even if it's a 6-woman. There we go, Sean right underneath. "I think the 6-woman tag should happen at Clash at the Castle. Have Dakota versus Asuka on Raw this week." Indeed. You may have noticed on Raw that they're intentionally keeping Asuka and Io Sky apart. There's a reason for that. Simon says, "Team Taz are officially done. Tom, Taz announced it on Dynamite on Wednesday." Yep. That's the thing that happened. "Hello, Sergeant Slaughterhouse. How are you? Hope you're good, mate." Jermaine says, "I believe Rhea Ripley and Judgment Day will get moved to SmackDown in the draft. Plus, I believe Ronda and Shayna go to Raw. And Ronda beats Bianca for the title to set up Ronda versus Becky." I think that is all a strong possibility. I can see Judgment Day going to SmackDown. That actually makes a lot of sense to me, particularly with the fact that we need strong people in the women's division. I think Rhea Ripley fits that bill. That said, we also need a few faces over there, so I think Alexa Bliss and Asuka may also come across to SmackDown. Sean says, "Charlotte isn't in the Gauntlet match." No, but a lot of people are predicting she will return tonight and just turn up at the end. It's very Vince McMahon, though not necessarily very Triple H. JJ says, "Who do you see being the number 1 draft pick? Please don't say Roman." Okay, then I can't really answer your question, Jay, because it's obviously Roman. Obviously. Simon says, "When is Cowboy Brock due back, Tom?" There is a possibility he will be featured at the Saudi Arabia show coming up. After that, Survivor Series or Royal Rumble are the most likely. I would say the Royal Rumble is the most likely spot at which Brock Lesnar will return. Hi, Sai. How you doing, mate? Good to see you. Jaden says, "Bayley just tweeted if JC Jane wants to become a champ again." Once. I imagine there'll be more there. But yeah, Bayley's going to be elevating a lot of people. A lot of people. Hector says, "Just remember, Tom, Cody beats Seth with 1 boobie." 1 boobie. Interesting. Sean says, "Becky is now the number 2 babyface on Raw. My guess is Alexa was bumped to 3rd. Becky has always been the number 1 babyface on Raw. She was even ahead. Well, sorry, when it comes to change. She's always been the number 1 person on Raw. She is the number 1 babyface, regardless of the fact that Bianca is champion." Spider-Boss says, "With Sasha and Naomi, the SmackDown women's locker room get leaders." Not necessarily. Sasha Banks doesn't necessarily concern herself too much with locker room politics. So when it comes to leadership, not something she apparently has much interest in. Joey says, "Why are they doing the NXT show on the same day as an AEW pay-per-view?" They don't really check the AEW schedule when they book pay-per-views. It was always going to happen eventually, with the move to Saturdays and so on and so forth being a part of that. So they're not going to intentionally stay out of their way on either side. Eventually this was always going to happen. Oh, thank you, Codeville. I appreciate that. That's very nice to hear. Jonathan Rodriguez says, "What's up with KO? Is he hurt?" Yes, he has a back injury at the moment. Ah, Code Villain, thank you. I do remember you, little tortilla boy. I do remember. I don't... Okay. So, I don't necessarily think that you're a troll, but at the same time, you're not sticking around, and apparently you've not stuck around. I think Simon's already got you. Simon's already got you. Fantastic, don't even need to worry. 10 Feet says, "I don't think Charlotte and Ronda facing each other again. I think they're setting up for Ronda and Becky at Mania." They are, yes. Spider-Boss says, "I guess if Charlotte gets involved in the gauntlet, she could take out Aaliyah. She could take out anyone, or she could just be another member right at the end who comes down." Tino's, how you doing, mate? Great to see you. Connor says, "Alright, thanks for the updates." Not a worry, not a worry. Knight Rider says, will the Universal and WWE Championships be split back up again? And if so, how could that happen? There's lots of different ways it could happen. Austin Theory, I think, will be a large part of that actually happening. But the championships will be split up again, yes. They are not fully integrated, as it were. Code Villain says, Liv is definitely losing her belt soon. Glad she won it, but she doesn't have that star power that SmackDown needs to carry the belt. Now, I largely do agree with this. I do think it feels a lot like a Nikki Cross championship reign. However, this is Triple H, so I'm willing to give that benefit of the doubt. Patrick, how you doing, mate? Says, hi, Tom. Sasha and Naomi returning today. I cannot confirm the exact return schedule of Sasha Banks and Naomi. I have been told that the contracts that they've been offered are considered to be all but a formality. There is a strong expectation that they are going to sign the new deals, and that is what it's going to be going forwards. And then we will see Sasha Banks and Naomi return. But at this point in time, I cannot say that they'll be returning tonight. I cannot say it. Tommy B says, what happened between Asuka and Io Sky? They just beat up other people instead of beating up each other. Rai says, think a women's mid-card title was talked about in Naomi and Sasha's contract negotiations. Yes. One very, very strong push for the women's mid-card title is coming, and it was discussed in contract negotiations, the women's tag team championships. Sean says, Judgment Day versus Triple M, book it. Triple M are not planned to get into the ring for a while, it sounds like. I'm asking the question quite often, but it definitely sounds like Triple M are not planning to get in the ring anytime soon. They want to make sure that they're getting strong reactions from the crowd, almost like a Fashion Files sort of thing, before they throw them into the deep end. Knight Rider says, the question is, who'll be number 2 in the draft? Either Becky or Seth. Probably Becky. Again. Noob says, any plans for Asuka in 2023? Yes, she will wrestle at the WWE. Traffic says, all this draft talk, has WWE announced a draft date, or is it just expected to be soon? They have not announced a date. I've been asking backstage, and it is they have not finalised the date as of yet. They've not got a formal plan. Triple H is basically making some decisions at this point as to how it's going to play out. My expectation is that it will be within the next few months, after the UK show, but well before Survivor Series. Jane says, between Naomi and Sasha, who's going to be on Raw? Well, we can't guarantee they're coming back first and foremost. You can't put assumptions on top of assumptions. James Stewart, welcome. Says, would love to see DIY even just one more time. I do think that day is coming, but I think it's a way off yet. Also, thank you for your comment earlier, James. I appreciate that. Mick Hennow, how you doing? Says, hey Tom, how are you doing? Doing very well, thank you. It's been a good week. Good week of work, good week of not work, and a good week of chill. I had some ice cream earlier. Life is good. Connor, absolutely accurate. Says, Natalya is definitely the leader of the SmackDown locker room. You are absolutely correct. Natalya is indeed the leader of the SmackDown locker room. Sonya Deville also playing her part there. Joey says, do you think JD McDonough could win the NXT title and call Bron Breakker up to the main roster? Yes, a wrestler challenging for the championship could win the championship, and the champion could go to the main roster. I think Bron Breakker's ready. So I don't necessarily think JD McDonough is the guy, but I do think Bron Breakker's ready. Sean says, what is the likely opponent for the Usos at Clash at the Castle? I don't think they have an opponent at Clash at the Castle, to be completely honest with you. I don't think they do. There's very few tag teams left when you look at the breakdown that they've had. So it would have to be a heel team. Maybe Gable and Otis? More likely from where I'm sitting, we get a team put together such as an AJ Styles and Logan Paul team, or something of that ilk. The Viking Raiders, of course, are right there. Simon says, Charlotte looks absolutely buff as hell, really muscly, ready to go in the gym. She's always been buff. She absolutely has. Spiderbell says, who do you think will beat Liv for the title? I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. I really do struggle at times to know for sure as to what's going to happen here. I like the look of Sonya doing it, but I think Ronda might get the championship back. And then after the draft, they'll do the swap. Hector says, I don't necessarily think Shayna needs a title match. I just hope Triple H books her to be relevant again. No more tag teams, none of that. She needs to be the same badass as she was in the 2020 Elimination Chamber. My suspicion is that Shayna Baszler, even if she doesn't win, is going a long, long way in tonight's gauntlet match, and I could not be happier for that prospect. Sean says, could MJF ask to be let out of his contract if the negotiations aren't going well? Yes, he could ask. I don't think he'd get it, but he could ask. Tommy says, I hope we get Io Sky versus Asuka one day. I think it would be a classic. That is planned within the next couple of months. Jaden says, do you think Sasha's contract is better than Becky's and Charlotte's? I have a little bit of information on that, but I'm not going to share it. Knight Rider says, I wouldn't mind seeing Sheamus turning face, joining Drew McIntyre and then challenging the Usos after Clash at the Castle. I love that idea. I'd absolutely love to make that happen. Noob says, maybe a WrestleMania match between Asuka and Io? Yep, possibly. And Jaden says, are you doing a SmackDown watch-along? Yes, I am. As every week, we will be hosting a SmackDown watch-along live here on the Tom Colohue channels. So if you'd like to check that out, just tune in here right when SmackDown starts. We currently have 98 people watching and only 43 likes. Please do remember to hit that thumbs up. It does make a massive difference to the growth of this channel. We are trying to get closer to that 1,400 on subscribers. We're racing a little bit a few people who may or may not be in this channel and trying to provide a bit of healthy competition there as well. JJ says, who do you see being the captain of the Survivor Series teams? I have absolutely no idea. It's way too early for that. Martin Carrillo, welcome. Says, do you see Roman losing both titles more earlier now Triple H on creative than Vince? No, I actually think he'll have them longer. Triple H is one of the main reasons we've had the long championship reign of Roman. Triple H is a proponent of longer championship reigns. Vince McMahon was a proponent of shorter championship reigns. Sean says, who do you think beats Carmelo Hayes? Great question. I don't think we've seen someone debut yet who will be the one. Zama says, Tom, I see more and more people putting you over on Twitter lately saying how accurate your news reports are. Well, thank you for that, Simon. I appreciate you letting me know that. I don't see it all. If I'm not tagged, I can't see it. But if I am tagged, I tend to retweet it. So I do recommend that if you are putting me over, as it were, on social media, tag me in because I'd like to retweet that. Thank you very much, Glenda, for subscribing. Glenda Gabriel, lovely name. For subscribing on the YouTube side. I very much appreciate it. You will get notifications when we go live for our spoiler warning news shows. Keith says, anything can happen in professional wrestling, as we saw last week at SummerSlam with Brock Lesnar and the Tractor. That was a lot of fun, wasn't it? That was a lot of fun. Steve says, no, it's heel versus heel, but would like Usos versus Brawling Brutes at Clash at the Castle. I'd like to see them get the opportunity. The WWE historically doesn't do a lot of heel versus heel, and that does go down to Triple H as well, but it would be great fun. Bailey says, has Von Wagner stalled out in NXT? Not necessarily. They're sort of rethinking what they're going to do with him. I think there's a lot that they need to think about. They can't push everyone at once, so they're just having a rethink and a bit of creative hiatus there. 10foot says, I don't think Becky and Roman are going to be drafted the same night, both drafting number one on their night. You don't think they're going to be drafted the same night, they'll both get number one. That's exactly how it happened this year, if you recall. Exactly. Jaden, I feel your pain when it comes to those naps. I have those naps. It can be difficult. Bad Boss says, I hope WWE don't swap the women's titles again. I suspect they might. Oh, Simon says, Flair is wrestling another match. Yep, what a surprise. Matthew Ham says, who do you think Liv Morgan will face at Clash at the Castle? The winner of tonight's gauntlet match. Spider-Boss says, my guess, Charlotte takes out Aaliyah and gets involved in the gauntlet match. I'm confident that Charlotte could get involved in the match without actually taking someone out first. Sean says, Nakamura versus Ludwig should be a banger of a match. It absolutely should, as should the ensuing Nakamura versus Gunter match. Sean, Alexa was not going to beat Charlotte for the belt. There was no plan for that, and it would have changed massively everything going forwards on SmackDown. Hello, Dara. How you doing? Hope you're doing good, mate. Connor says, I could honestly see Judgment Day moving to SmackDown, prey on Liv when she drops the title, have her go crazy because she's lost the thing she claims to need, and turns her to their side. Yeah, I don't see that. Liv. If they do that, then there are literally there's literally one face left on SmackDown. Everyone else is a heel. There are already too many heels to balance out the faces. Keith says, Ilya Dragunov vacating the UK Championship must have been heartbreaking. Indeed. And there again is another example of Triple H loving him a long championship reign. Hector on that topic says, if Ilya Dragunov dropping the title, what are the chances he comes to the main roster to 2.0 when he's healed up instead of going back to the UK. Imagine Gunter going on a long run with the IC title and saying he's beat everyone. Cue Ilya's music. It would be cool. I don't think it's going to happen. I do think it's a bit too early. And honestly, he's one of those that I expect to stay in NXT UK for a long time. Simon says, your score prediction for Liverpool versus Fulham tomorrow, City versus West Ham. City versus West Ham, I can imagine they're going to win 2-0. Liverpool versus Fulham, I'm going to put it down as 4-0 because let's be honest. Steve says, can't beat a bit of friendly competition. You are correct, sir. Sean says, also touches on that. Could have avoided the title swap last year by having Alexa win the belt from Charlotte and Becky losing the belt in the triple threat. Yes, by having completely different champions, they could have avoided the swap and could have completely changed everything that happened afterwards. They didn't want to. I do sometimes watch the F1, Jaden, but not religiously. Spider-Boss says, I suggest to my friends to watch Spoiler Warning when it comes to Sasha's news. Oh, thank you kindly, Spider-Boss. It has been, basically all of my Sasha Banks news has been confirmed pretty quickly after I say it, so that's always a good thing. Simon says, your thoughts on Marco Cucciarella's 16 million move to Chelsea? My opinion, they overload that. Why my City backed out? I don't know, you pay for quality. If he's as good as they think he is, then it'll be worth it. Martin said, should we expect more fun moments like the tractor lifting in the ring on PLEs? More fun moments, yes, but the tractor lifting, not so much long term. That was just to basically hype up that one match that people were getting a little bit tired of. Enjoy the Sasha news. I will recap it once I get to your comment. Just let me catch up. Hector says, give me Creed Brothers versus Uso. Doubt it happens, but that would be one hell of a match. I do think we need to be a little bit more patient when it comes to that. There is a lot of tag teams between them first, and I don't want to see people skipping the line, as it were. Sean says, Mandy offered Cora to help her with Zoe Stark. Cora faces Zoe on NXT next week. Do you think Mandy helps Cora win? I don't know. I don't watch enough NXT to really say. Nelson says, where do you think Roman gets drafted, Raw or SmackDown? Roman is expected to remain on SmackDown. Matthew Johnson says, do you see the bloodline growing? Naomi and Solo Sikoa, even if he stays in NXT? Yes. Naomi definitely. Solo Sikoa has been talked about for a long time. I don't want it to happen because I'd like him to at least have a little bit more experience as a singles guy first. I just think he would personally benefit from that. But he's going into the bloodline pretty soon. Keith says, please don't make E return as a heel to turn against the New Day. Yeah, they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. Michael says, I know it's probably not going to happen, but Charlotte should put over Liv. Should do. Charlotte has been pushing that idea. She wants to do that. Spider-Boss says, if WWE swapped the women's titles, could that mean Bianca goes to SmackDown? Yeah, if they're planning to swap the titles, Bianca would have to. Martin says, do you expect new title designs for the men's tag titles and world titles in the coming months or years? No, Triple H actually quite likes the titles that we've got. Quite likes those. Rick says, is Bobby Roode injured? He was injured for a while. Yeah, he was injured for a while. At this point, he's mostly working backstage and in a training capacity rather than actually front of house wrestling. That's why Dolph Ziggler's been seen a bit more recently. Tenfoot says, Ronda's going to stay on SmackDown because the contract Fox signed for her. Fox did not sign a contract for her. That's not something that happened. Ronda Rousey may still return to Raw. There is no contract with Fox. It's very much Ronda Rousey is a contract with the WWE and goes where she's told. Spider-Boss says, any chance of Charlotte putting over Liv? Yeah, as I say, Charlotte wants to do that, but it's up to the WWE and Triple H, not Charlotte. Thank you very much for subscribing, Matthew Johnson. I do appreciate that. You get updates on this channel every time we go live. Spoiler warning, as you can see over here, every Monday and every Friday. That is at 5 p.m. Eastern Time in the US, 10 p.m. here in the UK. We also do SmackDown watch parties. We will be doing one of those a little later today. Sean says, I wish the NXT UK tournament would have finished at Clash of the Castle, but I've seen that it was already taped. Yeah, NXT UK is simply not a part of main roster, and there are no plans for it to ever become so. Though I will say, with Survivor Series coming up, NXT may well be getting involved this year in Survivor Series. Spider-Boss says, your thoughts on Eric Ten Hag as Man United coach? Good coach, terrible team. Jaden says, I'm disgusted by the hate Sasha and Naomi are getting. Okay? As Simon says, yeah, just block people. Curate your timeline, because you don't need that in your life. You don't need that. Mike McIntyre shouts, Triple H is doing a good job by offering Sasha a new contract. Also Naomi. Martin Carrillo says, do you see talents like Angel Garza and Humberto winning the tag titles in the coming months? No, but I liked what was happening there. I liked the way that they were being used consistently and almost religiously on every single show. I do think they've got a lot of upside, and I do think they're very talented. So I'd like to see more of them. Simon says, who do you think beating Swerve Glory for the AEW World Tag Team Championships? They've just won them, so no one. Sean says, do you see Ciampa winning the belt? No, it's just a pay-per-view match for him. Kervin says, I saw the 7 women for tonight's show, but no Lacey Evans. Lacey Evans also not there last week, which I think is telling about where we're going here. Lacey Evans had been pulled last week for a creative reason. It's very possible at this point that there may be something keeping her out of the ring. Now, Joy, I've reached your comments now, so let's recap. So, speaking to people backstage and speaking to people connected with Sasha Banks and Naomi, Triple H has put together a package on offer and has been signed off by Nick Khan to offer to Sasha Banks and Naomi. It is new contracts in terms of those new contracts that would lock them in for around about 3 years. One contract is worth slightly more than the other, but they are both worth quite a bit of money. Let's just say a nice amount. Now, these also come with certain caveats. If they sign the deals, which at the moment I'm hearing that it's basically a formality that they are expected to sign them, if they sign these deals, there are also certain pushes that have been promised. Now, that's individual pushes for both Sasha Banks and Naomi, but it also covers the Women's Tag Team Championships. Sasha Banks and Naomi made a point of saying that they wanted them featured, and Triple H has said they're going to be. A number of people backstage have been pushing for these championships to be featured more heavily. Bayley, Alexa Bliss, Carmella, a number of others are trying to make this happen as well. Triple H has agreed and has drawn up plans. I think that's everything that I've got on that point at this point. Yep. Martin says, if Roman Reigns stays with both world titles before the draft and he only gets drafted with the Universal title, will that mean vacant will get drafted with the WWE title? Yes, vacant would then move to Raw so that the championship can go with them. Joey says, who do you think will be in the next call-ups? Braun Breaker and Toxic Attraction. Joey says, who do you think will be... I've already read that one. Watch Me says, what do higher-ups think of Liv Morgan as champion? They're enjoying it so far. They're worried about pushing her too hard. They want to make sure fans keep cheering her, so they're making a point of not making her look too strong. But this has been something coming for a while now. Watch Me, if you're a Liv Morgan fan, I do have a video here on YouTube from when she did win the championship, detailing some of the people backstage who've been fighting for her to do so and who continue to fight for her as we speak. There was always a push since the feud with Becky Lynch to have her as a champion. The amount of people pushing backstage for it to happen is even more than you'd think. Great name. Thank you, Moon Doggy, for subscribing to the YouTube channel. I very much appreciate it. We currently have 114 people watching and 57 likes, so please remember to hit that thumbs up if you can. I will continue to read every comment that I can and try and get as many questions answered as I can. JJ says, going back to you saying Becky is Raw locker room leader, I can see it because Bianca always says Becky goes hard for the women backstage. She does. She absolutely does, and it pays off in so many ways. She is the locker room leader on Raw, and the fact that she's currently injured isn't changing that. Sean says, congrats to Peyton Royce and Sean Spears on the announcement they're expecting their first child. Congratulations indeed. 4-3 says, are there plans for Dakota Kai to be mainly a tag star? At this point, she will be a faction star. She will have singles matches. She will have tag matches, but it will always be under the Bayley umbrella for the first few months. Knight Rider says, the chances of Miz turning on Ciampa seem high. Hasn't the Miz turned on just about every partner he's ever had in the WWE? Yes. Same as Kevin Owens. So the Miz and Kevin Owens should become tag team champions at some point. I'll see you later, Keith. Thanks for dropping in. Some great questions. Sean says, were you mad when we didn't get Mako versus Saray? No, I don't watch NXT UK. I don't. It's just, there's too many people who've been credibly accused of being sexual predators. So it's not for me. Thank you very much for subscribing, Martin. I do appreciate it. And thank you for your questions so far. Absolutely loving the questions that we're getting. Thank you kindly. Spider-Boss says, I think that Ronda got all the blame for WWE giving her Sasha's title run early this year, and it's unfair that fans blame Ronda. I agree. Ronda was told, you're coming in, you're feuding with Charlotte, you're winning the championship. That's what she was told. She didn't even know that that was going to be exactly where Sasha Banks was. And of course, that's something originally reported first right here on the Tom Colohue channel. If you have not subscribed yet, now is the ideal time to do so, because we report news here that you cannot find anywhere else. So please do remember to check us out. There is plenty of backlog of news as well. When it comes to Sasha Banks, no one has reported more news more accurately than myself. And that's literally evidenced by so many YouTube videos. Go back and check them out and you'll see I not only get there first, but I get there fast. Joey says, I saw a report WWE got rid of some banned words. Seems like talent is getting more freedom with their promos. They are. They've always had bullet points, but they've always had certain things they have to say. When someone's feuding with John Cena, they will always say, your time is up, my time is now. So many people have said it. It's cliche as hell. Just stop it. Stop it. John says, surprise Ronda isn't in the gauntlet match. She could miss the UK show. She is suspended, and it's very possible she will miss the UK show intentionally. James Jones, welcome, mate. How you doing? Says, did you see where Warner Discovery are going to be dropped shows? I did see some information on that. There is, of course, talk on that happening of AEW. I do think AEW will get a new TV deal, but they're hoping for a bigger TV deal because at the moment, they've not been profitable for the last 3 years. They've not been profitable. So they need a better TV deal, and I don't think they're going to get it. Hey, Thomas, how you doing, mate? Yes, I'm streaming later for SmackDown. There will be a live watch party. That's good news, Joe. It's good news. Badabell says Jimmy Uso looked pretty happy on Raw this week. Maybe he knows Naomi will be back. I can't imagine that would be what makes him happy. Sometimes he's just a happy person. Ray UK says, do you think Triple H will bring back any released wrestlers? He already did with Dakota Kai. There are conversations about a number of other wrestlers. We saw the report today on Karrion Kross, but there's a lot of others that have been mentioned. Briefly, there was discussion of the Iconics, but that's not really happened at this point in time. And there's others such as people who are under contract elsewhere, like Keith Lee, and a number of others as well. Martin says, is it possible the reason that Lacey Evans hasn't shown up yet is because she is miscast? Yep, very possibly. It could be an element of creative hiatus. I am confident she's been pulled for a creative reason. Sneaker Fetish says, yes, the already cancelled movies AEW might lose a TV deal. It is a possibility, but there's no guarantee of it happening. It's something that's been discussed a lot at the moment. I would wait for more information before we actually consider whether it's actually going to happen. We can't guarantee it. And at the moment, the speculation is increasing the likelihood of it happening. Like, genuinely. The more buzz there is online saying, oh, AEW is getting cancelled, the more likely AEW is to be cancelled. I know it sounds silly, but it is what it is. Hector says, with the Usos seemingly beating everyone, who would you like to see the WWE bring in to beat them if you had your choice? Briscoes would be good. Briscoes would be great. Spider-Bell says, Rhea Ripley beating up Dominic Mysterio went viral. Rhea Ripley doing everything goes viral. Have you seen that woman? Everything she does should go viral. Michael says, I would love Io and Dakota to be tag champs. I found that the most likely situation. I think we get a tag team championship tournament, and I think we end with Sasha Banks and Naomi losing to Dakota Kai and Io Sky. I just think that would be great fun. Well, Mike, I love the faction. It's fantastic. Matthew says, any thoughts on a Raquel Rodriguez heel turn? That would leave Aaliyah and Liv Morgan as the only faces on SmackDown. We can't afford to have everyone turn heel, so I don't think it works. Matthew Ham says, which is more likely, a 6-woman tag between Control versus Alexa, Asuka and Bianca, or Bianca versus Bayley for the Raw Women's Championship at Clash at the Castle? The former. The 6-woman tag is more likely at this point. Becky Lynch was supposed to be playing spoiler and keeping Bayley away from Bianca Belair, but Becky Lynch would have lost to Bayley at Clash at the Castle. Jaden says, Paige said in an interview that she wanted to wrestle Sasha if she ever gets cleared. The WWE have no intention of ever clearing her. Wrestling and Magic says, I was so happy to see Cesaro finally win a world title earlier this month. Firstly, welcome back, Wrestling and Magic. And yeah, big moment for him. Jane says, Natalia recently said that Sasha is her fave opponent. Yep, a lot of people like Sasha Banks. Martin says, has there been any talks about bringing in the Good Brothers to WWE again? None whatsoever. Very little interest in doing so. They do not fit the profile that Nick Khan and Triple H are looking for. Wrestling and Magic says, and I guess Drew will dethrone Reigns at the Castle event. Possibly, but I don't think it's likely at this point. Jaden's asking, I'm guessing that means, do you think Paige is ever wrestling again? Yes, but not in the WWE. Martin says, do you think there is a chance of AJ Styles moving to SmackDown again? Not really. Not really. I think he'll just get properly pushed on Raw. Wrestling Magic says, I can see Naomi turning heel and joining the Bloodline. We've discussed that at length. And yeah, I've been talking about that for a while. Rai says, could you put a rough timeline on the return of the women's tag titles, or too difficult to say right now? The plan has been put together. It really depends on the return, of course, of Sasha Banks and Naomi. So they're waiting on them to return first, or at least confirm whether or not they will return before they make it happen. Eric says, who do you think are going to be the next call for both men and women? Braun Breaker and Toxic Attraction. Sean says, Jessie McKay was promoting Up Up Down Down this week. She was on Up Up Down Down. She was technically on WWE programming this week, which I found very enjoyable. Nelson says, WWE should open the Forbidden Door. Is cracked open right now. It's not. The Forbidden Door is a piece of AEW branding. It's not a real thing. It's a piece of AEW branding, and the WWE would only be promoting other outlets rather than promoting themselves. The only way the WWE benefit from that is downwards. The only way. Jay says, Seth said he wanted Roman. Do you see him going to SmackDown? Possibly. I know that Seth and Becky were moved over to Raw to be the focal points, and I do think they will both stay on Raw. However, Roman does have a Raw and a SmackDown championship. So I think Seth might still get Roman. Jane says, I'm so happy that Triple H cares about women and tag teams. Me too, mate, me too. Hector says, thoughts on Edge going back to Metalingus. I liked the Brood remix. I liked it. We'll see if it plays out again, because it could just be a pay-per-view thing. Spider-Boss says, Sasha and Naomi versus Io and Dakota. Io and Dakota win and Naomi turns against Sasha. Yeah, that's essentially what I'm seeing. Martin says, would you swap War Games with Survivor Series, having War Games for Raw and SmackDown, Survivor Series instead for NXT 2.0 and NXT UK? No, I would have War Games matches at Survivor Series. I would have a Survivor Series match at War Games, and so on and so forth. I just think that would be great fun. Instead of having a men's 5-on-5 elimination, have 3 teams of 4 and chuck them in War Games, because why the hell not? Levitt says, Bayley beating Bianca at Clash. Bayley unlikely to wrestle Bianca at Clash at this point. Spider-Boss says, why Theory didn't appear on Raw this week? Because he doesn't need to appear on Raw every single time. He doesn't need to be there every time. I feel worth pointing out that the plan, essentially, for Triple H is to feature less wrestlers every week, but rotate more. Rotate a lot more. Thank you very much for subscribing, firstly for free, and then Bear Hudson. Thank you kindly for joining us over on the YouTube side, where we continue to grow as well. I very much appreciate everyone subscribing. It's making a huge difference to the growth of the channel. We are growing faster than we ever have before, and a huge part of that is down to how many people are joining these shows at the moment. Thank you everyone who's watching, who's chatting, who's hitting like, and who is subscribing. One of the reasons we're growing so fast right now is the increase in chat rate, because so many people, even when I'm not being asked questions, you're talking amongst yourselves. That keeps the chat rate high. That tells YouTube we should advertise this show. So please do continue to do so. Jaden says, I remember when Sasha would tweet, I love you, Vince, like every day. They genuinely got on really well. Joey says, I personally would love for Sasha and Naomi to be Bianca's thirds, with Bayley and Sasha is always magic. I agree, but I think they needed more on SmackDown right now. 4-3 says, why did the Bucks lose the tag titles very fast compared to the other runs for those titles? A bit of a reset. When it comes to the Bucks. They pulled the trigger faster than they expected to. Wrestling and Magic says, when do you see Theory cashing in, and will he win the big one? The original plan was for him to cash in and lose at SummerSlam. That has been changed, so at this point it's up to Triple H. Hey Ronaldinho, how you doing, mate? Tenfoot says, from what I hear, Sasha, Becky and Bayley are the ones who are always pushing for the ladies mostly. Yeah, that's 100% accurate. Joy says Sasha and Naomi will automatically be faces to the fans. That's true. It's also kind of the case for Bayley, which is why they had to turn Becky so that Bayley would get over by beating her up. Well, that's good to hear, Spider Boss. Traffic says, with Triple H in charge of creative, I'm sure he has a place in his heart for NXT still. Do you see more wrestlers like Ziggler going to NXT to try and put over talent or rejuvenate their career? Yes. Everyone who's already done so has largely done so on the back of Triple H asking them to. I think that will very much continue. Jaden says, it's so weird. Roman has been champ as long as I watch WWE. I don't know WWE without Roman as champ. I've been watching since late 2020. So yeah, Roman is your only guy. Thank you, Wrestling and Magic. That's a nice thing to say. I appreciate it. Sean says, Madison Rayne will make her debut for AEW tonight in Rampage. She's also a trainer for AEW. Possible WWE had no interest in Madison? Yeah, WWE had no interest whatsoever in Madison. Levis says, do you think we're getting a draft lottery after Clash? We'll be getting a draft. I wouldn't necessarily say a lottery, but we will be getting one after Clash. Michael says, I saw where Theory's uncle passed. He tweeted about it, and I think that's why he missed Raw. Well, that may well be the thing then. Yeah, that makes sense. Joey says, I'm so happy I get hyped to watch WWE again. Good to hear. Good to hear. Steve says, fantastic stuff as always, buddies. Keep up the great work. Gotta go, but have a great weekend. Hope you enjoy SmackDown later this evening. Thank you kindly, Steve. I very much appreciate it. For wrestling fans, and I imagine that's most of you, SCW, the wrestling channel, is always worth checking out. At the moment, they are just trying to get the last bit of watch time to get to the point of monetization. So, if possible, if you're a member of the Discord, we may start to organise something of an SCW watch-along to pull that, to essentially get them over the line, is what I'm trying to say. So essentially get them over the line. So if that's of interest to you, please let me know. Because we have friends, we have fellow content creators who are this close to monetization. And if we can help them, I would love to be able to do so. Sean, thank you kindly for subscribing on YouTube. Thank you very much. You'll get notifications every time we go live. Spoiler warning, as is listed just here, goes live on Mondays and Fridays, 5 p.m. Eastern Time in the US, 10 p.m. UK time over here. Hector says, I don't know if you were able to catch Raw this week. I did. But AJ catching Mustafa out of the 450 splash straight into the Stars Splash was phenomenal. No pun intended. It was magnificent. Martin says, would you like to see the Raw Roulette come back? There were reports early in the year about bringing it back, possibly. I would not like to see that under any circumstances. Spider-Boss says, Becky back as babyface. It's so good. I agree. Double J says, could you see Triple H bringing FDR and face the Usos and DIY if Johnny returns, of course. DIY is a possibility. FDR are under contract, so no. Eric Douglas says, do you see Toxic getting called up still a tag team or single competitor? Also surprised you didn't say Johnny for next male call-up. What do you mean next male call-up? Johnny? Which Johnny is in NXT at the minute? For tag team, for Toxic Traction, yes, I think they get called up as a group. I think in the draft we see Control moving to SmackDown and Toxic Attraction being called up for Raw. James Jones says, WWE used to always work with other promotions, so AEW never creates something that's already been done. I see WWE working with NWA again in Japan like they used to in the 80s or 90s. There was talk with Japan, particularly New Japan, but that was in the effort to keep Daniel Bryan in the conversation. Joy says, Triple H would have had to offer her the world to come back. We're about to see the biggest Sasha push in the next 3 years. Watch. Yeah, can definitely see that. Johnny Gargano is not a call-up, Eric. He is very much not a call-up on the basis that he's no longer working for the company. His contract has expired. He doesn't work for them. Yes, Robs, I can just say belt now. Thank you kindly for that. I can just say belt. Amazing. Joey says, are they going to merge the women's tag titles? That is not the plan to my knowledge. Spider-Boss says, SmackDown got pretty interesting. No, I would say so. Now that Triple H is in charge, things are very different. Knight Rider says, if The Fiend were to return, a program of Edge is a must in my opinion. I agree. Sid says, I just got here. What did I miss? Just kidding. I'll rewatch from the beginning later. Just wanted to tell you that you're really good at this. Thank you, Sid. I appreciate that. I've been receiving a lot of compliments recently. No more, of course. The biggest compliment was the peak of 232 people watching. That was a pretty good compliment for me, I've got to say. But also we've got a lot of people, and a lot of people on Twitter recently, just sharing some love. If you haven't followed me on Twitter, it's at Colohue, Colohue. I do post about the go lives, so you can set your reminders every time they go live. Joy says, I wish Triple H would get Tony back. Unfortunately, that contract is ironclad with AEW at the moment. She's not available to bring back. Levitt says, do you think we're getting a Survivor Series War Game edition this year? I do not. I don't think they're going to bring in War Games just yet. I think that'll be a next year thing, but I do think we'll see it next year. Who knows? Maybe it'll be its own pay-per-view. Sean says, I'd like to see Alexa versus Bayley on the go home for Cash at the Castle. Could well be it. Could well be it. 4-3 says, do you think Ricochet will get a push? Honestly, kind of no. Not everyone can get a push, and I think Ricochet, unfortunately, is in that area of not necessarily being the big Triple H guy like a Tommaso Ciampa, and not necessarily being the Vince McMahon guy, so... Jane says, I dislike Tony because she always eliminates me on Royal Rumbles in 2K22. You've got a feud going there. Got a feud. Thomas Phipps says, do you see any surprises at Clash at the Castle? Yes, there'll be surprises, but honestly they're surprises, so I can't sit here and say what they're going to be. Martin says, should Raw be focused on factions and have SmackDown be more focused on developing singles talent? No, not in any way, shape or form. It really does remove individuality and personality if you're just conforming in that way. Kyle Mulkey, welcome, mate. Says, imagine Bayley faction, Bianca Bliss, Asuka, and a SmackDown faction with Sasha at Survivor Series in a War Games match. None of that likely. And none of that likely. They don't go by individual factions, but it would be fun. Now, if there were a War Games event, or just a War Games match, that'd be fun. But it doesn't have to be Survivor Series. That does not work for me. Jaden says, I hope Sasha gets pushed beyond Becky. She won't be. Knight Rider says, I could see Drew McIntyre / Sheamus, DIY versus Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn as potential teams to feud with the Usos. Give me that fatal 4-way and I'll be a happy boy. Joey says, I'm excited to see what Triple H books on Clash at the Castle. Me too. Lots of very good options. Spider-Boss says, Triple H doing all to bring Sasha. I love it. He very much has. Joey says, I need that Io and Sasha pay-per-view match, the one they did in 2020, but I know it would be great. It would be, it will be, it may well be coming. Stevan says, NXT Black and Gold era, do you see it coming back next year? No. There will be elements of it that return, but NXT 2.0 was a Nick Khan invention, and it was a necessary means to an end. There are very real reasons that they made that change that are paying off with call-ups on the main roster. Carl says, Usos versus DIY would be a 5-star tag match. Well, it wouldn't be, because it's Dave Meltzer who makes the decisions, and he doesn't often give 5 stars. With 5 stars for us, though, quite possibly. Harmony Gaming says, is Sasha Banks coming back to WWE? The news, as of the beginning of the show, I'll just quickly recap, was about the contracts that are on offer from Triple H, signed off by Nick Khan, to Sasha Banks and Naomi. I did talk about the fact that there are expectations backstage, that it's all but a formality, that they will sign or have already signed, and I did speak at length about plans for their pushes. We're now past an hour of the show. By all means, just skip back and catch up on that one, or subscribe, because you'll hear a lot more in the future as well. Spider-Boss says, could we consider Sasha a Triple H's girl? Not at this point, no. Martin says, which women's faction would you create on the SmackDown women's roster? At the moment, honestly, I kind of wouldn't, beyond just saying Ronda and Shayna. But if you could give me Ronda and Shayna and Sonya, I think I'd be a happy boy. Joey says, do you think Austin Theory could cash in a classic at the Castle? Austin Theory could cash in on any possible show featuring Roman Reigns. Jaden says, why don't they want to make Sasha the face of the company? She's got it all. Because there are already many faces of the company and they don't want to overturn Becky. Levitt says, do you think that the presentation of Raw and SmackDown will change, like getting rid of the colours, getting more darker presentation like NXT? No, not at all. This is a Kevin Dunn presentation, and it is meant to appeal to more casual viewers. It also succeeds in doing that. Triple H is not going to be making blanket wholesale changes, not in any way, shape or form. It is still designed for the casual viewer. Stefan says, when is Braun Breaker going to get called up to the main roster? Soon. James Jones says, with the jump, it's going to be the younger ones like Sammy, MJF, Santana, Ricky Hobbs, ones like that. The jump is coming, just wait. It kind of is, to be honest, it kind of is. Sean says, I wouldn't mind Shotzi winning the gauntlet facing Liv, also a possibility. And Spider-Boss says, Vince out, new contracts, Sasha won. It was not a competition. Please do remember that Vince McMahon and Sasha Banks are actually quite close and quite good friends. JJ says, can someone define a Triple H girl or boy? Are they his favourites or something? If it's defined by who came through NXT, that's basically everyone on the roster now. Knight Rider says, I still think Cody Rhodes is the one to dethrone the Tribal Chief. Certainly a possibility, but I do think there'll be a Seth Rollins transition in there. And Levitt says, do you have a TV14 update? There is no real update. At the moment, there are no plans to go TV14, but it is actively being discussed backstage. I am wrapping it up there. We have been going for an hour and 20 minutes. We peaked at 125 viewers, 66 likes. We've had plenty of additional subscribers. Tonight is SmackDown. We will be hosting a live SmackDown watch party. So if you'd like to check that out, please do. And if you're only here for the news shows, next Monday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 p.m. UK time, will be our next spoiler warning show. So please do remember to hit that subscribe button to make sure you don't miss any news, because there is news in these shows that you will not hear anywhere else. And then you may hear it a couple of days or weeks later behind a paywall. The Sonya Deville news took a month to get anywhere else, and then you have to pay $5 for it, whereas it was right here for free. So if you want free news before anyone else, click subscribe. In the meantime, though, I'm going to wrap up. Going to say a huge thank you to everyone who's watched. Look forward to seeing some of you for the watch party, and of course seeing some of you for Monday's spoiler warning. Until then, I've been Tom Colohue. You've been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.